So it's right around 11:30 a.m. on Sunday, September 10th. I can't believe that we're already almost halfway through September. It feels like it literally just started. My birthday was a few days ago, and it actually was, but we're already on the 10th, which is just crazy. And that means that tomorrow is September 11th, which is always, kind of an important day if you remember September 11th. If you were old enough to have any idea of what was going on, it was a pretty atrocious day. So I'm just noting that now, but I'm also noting the fact that um, over the last 4 months or so, I've noticed that there's some kind of a residue, a powder kind of residue that comes from this corner right here and that lands right here all over my counter and all over my kitchen sink. And sometimes it also lands on the stove. And I'm not sure what this powdery kind of substance is, but it appears to be corrosive and toxic because when it lands on my skin or when I get it on my skin, it starts creating a burning and tingling sensation. I made a video about this a couple months ago where I noticed that there were these filaments, kind of like, I don't know, fiberglass coming from this corner right here. I don't know if it's coming from the ceiling or from some kind of insulation in the wall, but there were these fibers, and I made a video about this just saying, look, I'm not crazy. I'm just observing what's going on in this unit. And there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in this unit just because, starting with the fact that the landlord doesn't really make a lot of repairs. This is the same paint job that was on the walls when I moved in 12 years ago. They haven't painted the unit since. Things are in disrepair. The tiles are coming off. They're ungluing. There's always a lot of moisture or dampness around the base of the sink. And it's not because the sink is flooding or overflowing or anything like that. It's coming from underneath the sink in the back of the wall. And so there's these fiberglass filaments just floating around in the air around here, like this corner, and it lands on the counter and on things like plates and surfaces where you can actually feel it. And it's corrosive. It literally burns your skin when you touch it. If it lands in your food, it burns your mouth. And this has been going on for 4 months now. I'm not sure what the deal is. Again, I don't know if it's fiberglass, some kind of fiberglass residue that's coming from the walls or from the ceiling. It could be coming from the ceiling. But it lands all over this area where I prepare my food. And when I ingest it, it literally causes a lot of burning and tingling. You don't know that you've got this residue substance landing on your food and in your drinking glasses and things like that. It also gets into the pans and on the dishes, and it's extremely corrosive. So I've noticed that when it lands on my skin or I get it on my skin, it burns for hours, even if I rinse it off. That's a concern. That's a very serious safety concern. I don't know if it's fiberglass. Oh my God, it's totally raining right now. I need to close this window. Anyway, it's a rainy morning. It's Sunday. I'm trying to get I have a big project going on here. Look at all that. I have to sort through all that, fold it, put it away, or wash it. Yeah. Wow, it's really raining. So we're having these rainy mornings over the last couple of days, which is nice because it's been in the 90s this week. I don't know if I need to close the window. Yeah. It's been in the 90s this week, so it's nice to get a bit of a cooler breeze coming through here with a little bit of rain and some clouds instead of bright sunshine and 92 degrees. But again, I've noticed that this powdery residue substance that also has filaments. I mean, maybe I'm dealing with two different things. Maybe there's some kind of a powdery substance coming from the ceiling. Maybe the ceiling is crumbling. Parts of it are landing on my bed or on my counter. But there's also this fiberglass filament stuff that's flying through the air around this corner right here. And again, it lands on my food, on my counters, on my pans, on my dishes. And when it lands on my skin, it literally burns for hours, even when I rinse it off. I'm a trained research scientist. I have a master's level education in tumor biology and angiogenesis, and I worked for 18 years continuously as a lab research scientist. So I'm trained extensively in working with hazardous chemicals, radioactive substances, including I-125, which is extremely dangerous, P53, which is also extremely dangerous, and tritium, which is dangerous, but you can't quantify it because It's a different type of radioisotope. So I'm familiar with things that are hazardous and that should be controlled and not be flying through the air in a living space. And again, there's these powdery substance and also these little filament like bits of, I don't know what, like fiberglass flying through the air around here in this corner. It's not over by my door, it's in this corner, and it lands on my food, on my dishes, on my counters, on my pans. I have to rinse everything off before I use it. Everything I have on that counter, I have to rinse off before I use it to prepare food. And I have to rinse my pans before I use them to prepare food because they're covered with this powdery substance that appears to have a corrosive component to it. So again, it burns your skin. When it comes into contact with your skin, even when you rinse it off, it continues to burn. So that's a highly hazardous substance, and I'm just not sure what's going on here. I don't know if it's coming from the ceiling, if the fiberglass, floaty fiberglassy kind of filaments are coming from some kind of insulation failure in the walls, but this is kind of a concern, and it keeps happening. I noticed it very significantly this morning when I got up. All of my counters were wiped down last night when I went to bed. And when I woke up this morning, there was like this powder all over my stovetop, my pans, my counter, the stuff I have on my counter, any dishes that I had drying last night. I had to rinse everything off again. It's just very strange, and I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I'm noting it now. Again, because I'm a trained research scientist, we are trained to notice things that maybe other people might not notice or might not think are a concern. But because I was extensively trained for 18 years, and you have to redo these trainings every year, every 2 years, in working with hazardous chemicals and radioactive isotopes, I'm pretty familiar with what a hazardous chemical feels like on your skin, or what it looks like, what it can do. So when something burns your skin for hours, even after you've rinsed it off, it's probably not something you should have in your living space, let alone your kitchen area. So that needs to be noted.